Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video we have a Black Library review, and today we're going to be checking out the Warhammer 40,000 story Renegades, Harrowmaster, and Alpha Legion audiobook by Mike Brooks. Now, as always, as the name audiobook would suggest, I like checking out all the stories that do come out on audio. This has got a paper novel, so if you want a hard copy, if you like reading the books more than listening to audio, then that is out there as well for you to grab. But as always, I generally listen to stuff when I'm doing some hobby, doing some editing, doing some work around the house or whatever, going places, etc. But this one is narrated by Theo Solomon, who I've heard a few stories from, and I think out of the stories I've heard from Theo Solomon so far, I think this is probably my favourite performance of his as a voice actor. Not to say I disliked any of his before, but I think this is definitely his best performance I have seen, which is really fun. So with that, let's get talking about the story for this book. And so, the Alpha Legion are devious beyond measure, but deceit is a double-edged sword. As the Indomitus Crusade pushes into the far reaches of the Ultima Segmentum, the warband known as the Serpent's Teeth encounter the fearsome Primaris Marines. And the Alpha Legion is now faced with a choice: fade into the shadows or adapt and strike back. Solomon Akuro, leader of the Teeth, intends to claim the title of Harrowmaster and bind together the feuding heads of the Hydra that make up his legion. His allies are disparate and unproven, and his enemies march with the might of the Imperium at their back. Much is not as it seems though, and the odds are stacked against the sons of Alfarius, but Solomon is armed with a weapon the Imperium cannot ignore: the truth. Today's video is brought to you by Gap Games, a fantastic retailer in Australia for a variety of different miniature war games. If you'd like to help support the channel, we have an affiliate link where by clicking on and purchasing, you'll help support the channel, but you'll also help support Gap Games, which is a fantastic servant to the community. And so, moving on, the story's purpose here. This story really does feel like it is setting up for bigger things. This does feel like this is the first in what will be many stories for Solomon Akuro, or at least I hope is the first of many stories for Solomon Akuro. I enjoy all of Mike Brooks' stuff. I think he has some of my favourite novels that I've listened to over the years, and indeed read over the years. But it does feel like it is a big sell. But that is not to say that this story doesn't have resolutions to many questions and challenges that it does present the characters within the story. So it's not, an entire setup story that is really relying on the stories after to sort of tell us whether this is a good story or not. This does do a fantastic job at setting up a character and setting up a idea and a setting and a longer story, but it also does resolve itself within a nice little story itself. In this though, we are introduced to the Alpha Legion, which are a legion of traitor space marines unlike any other. They didn't flee into the Eye of Terror, they kept harrowing the Imperium all those years, and they are just so different to so many other Chaos Space Marines. And the story really does set out to try and show us why they are so different and how they are so different and how these things change and interact with, Space Marines that maybe as an enemy of the Imperium don't appear to be what you imagine when you are told of Chaos Space Marines. And so our main character is Solomon Akuro. Pretty funny that this is narrated by Theo Solomon, and then we have a main character called Solomon Akuro. Coincidence? Alpha Legion infiltrating and making things work just like that seems legit to me. But Solomon Akuro is a sort of rising star, you could say, within the Alpha Legion. He is actually not a traitor legionnaire from the time of the Horus Heresy. In fact, many of the Alpha Legion are not from that time because they have actually remained in real space. Many of them have actually either died in the constant engagements or, as they say throughout the thing, have died from natural causes. Space Marines do grow old and die, apparently. So many of the Alpha Legion that exist in the modern sort of world never ever fought in the Horus Heresy. Most of them that are out there are I guess, the next line of recruits for the Imperium, as the Alpha Legion still do harvest gene seed. They take tithes from planets. They do all the stuff that a regular Space Marine chapter would do. Now, that's not to say that those others don't exist. They certainly do. And some of the Alpha Legion did flee to the Eye of Terror, where, time doesn't work sort of normally. But Solomon Akura, he is not an Alpha Legionnaire from there. He is an Alpha Legionnaire of relatively new sort of age, pre the Indominus Crusade and pre the Cicatrix Maledictum becoming a thing, but relatively new nonetheless in Space Marine terms, I would guess you would say. Now, he is leading his merry warband, and we do have a really great selection of secondary characters from his faithful sort of pet, or not pet, that's the wrong word to use for Alpha Legion, his companion, which is a Primaris Psyker that has turned from the Imperium. We then have some other Alpha Legionnaire members, including captains, that are all a really interesting cast of secondary characters. And so, over the course of the story, though, what does change about our main character, Solomon Akura? Over the course of the story, we really do see him step up to this role of leadership. At the beginning of the story, he's not even a leader of his own warbands, and we do definitely have many sort of situations in this where he maybe is not entirely right for leadership or entirely sure of his own right to leadership, but he definitely feels like this is what he has to do to save his legion from being destroyed by the Indominus Crusade, and continuing on. It really does a good job in this story of painting the Alpha Legion as the good guys of the story, which is really interesting because they are, still traitor Space Marines. They still are nasty and they still do horrible things, but they definitely do a good job of making you like them within the story. But over the course of the story, Solomon Akura's big sort of change is really his sort of step up to leadership more than anything. And so, what does this book do well, though? And for me, it is, just a great Alpha Legion story. I think the thing I always remember about Legion from the Horus Heresy, which is one of my favourite Horus Heresy stories, is the fact that that story is just so Alpha Legion. And there's also the short story as well, I believe, in the Primarchs that is where the Alpha Legion infiltrate the Alpha Legion to stop the Alpha Legion hurting the Alpha Legion. And I really do think that this story plays into so many of the Alpha Legion tropes that makes them so interesting and fun to read about. There's twists and turns and plots that sort of play out in ways you wouldn't expect, and it does a really good job of having these twists and turns be rewarding, be wow, I didn't see that coming, or, once you think you saw coming, it drops enough hints and then you're really like, haha, I've called it, I've seen it. But for me, it is just a great Alpha Legion story. Twists and turns that have good and influential meaning really is all what a good Alpha Legion story should have. And so, who would like this story, though? And of course, this is going to be for the fans of the Alpha Legion. I haven't listened to a story about the Alpha Legion as much as I enjoyed. That is a full book since Legion. I don't know if there's any later in the Horus Heresy. I haven't. If there are some later in the Horus Heresy, let me know, because I did stop reading the Horus Heresy a while ago when it got to, I think, the Damnation of Pythos was my last Horus Heresy story I read. I've got to get back to reading that at some point. But Alpha Legion fans, this one is certainly for you, and I do think other people can get quite a bit of enjoyment out of this. It has a fun story. Like I said, it's building to something, and I hope we do see more of the characters within it. In summary, though, this was a really fun listen. I think there were some great characters. There were nice little sort of comical little hooks in there that, just do so well in 40k. In the Grimdark, but you get these nice little sort of quips from characters that are really fun to latch onto and give you a good giggle while you're laughing. There's some really great moments within the story, I think, of, rewarding sort of twists and turns, which is everything you could want in an Alpha Legion story. I think this is just a great Alpha Legion story. I put this right up there with Legion as a solid Alpha Legion story. Super fun. Would recommend to anyone. But if you have listened or read this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it down in the comments below. And so that is the end of the video. We hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our great little community we have here at Centerful Gaming, we have a Discord server, which is linked down in the video's description. Also linked down in the video's description are the best ways to help support the channel, be that via Patreon or YouTube members, or by grabbing yourself some merch, whether that's stickers, t-shirt, mugs, or anything from our Teespring store as well, or by using our affiliate links, which are also linked down in the description as well, that go a long way to helping support the channel. As a special thank you to all our Patreons and YouTube members, we'd like to give you all a shout out. So thank you to Andy C, Grimskull, Colorblind Magic, Iron Grinch, Benjamin Swallows, James Cater, Mark Harvey, Domir, Average Wargamer, JJ Austrian, Cure Dynamic, Andrew Bowen, Alderin Shot First, Kendall, Soren, Green Roots Gaming, Ronya, Lockloric, The Johnny84, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, Monty's Tabletop Terrain, James Tillman, Disco, John Castle, and Gargamel196. Thank you all so much for helping support the channel. It means the absolute world to us. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Once again, everyone, stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.